welcome to the stage, David Weston.
What's up, everyone? BlueHat Seattle, what's up? You here this morning? You awake? You lively? All right. So the funny thing I noticed this morning, I've been, at this point, in the last couple years, we've put BlueHat all over the world. So I've been to BlueHat in Tel Aviv, Israel 3 times. I've been in Shanghai, China. I've never actually been in Seattle, even though it's about 5 miles from where we've done this before. So I'm excited it's here. I'm excited it's happening. Previously we did BlueHat in Redmond, kind of stuffy. We also did it in the Building 33, where I get chills and sort of squirmy, because that's where we do a lot of compliance training. So I don't want to do anything related to compliance, GDPR. I want to talk about security research today. So I'm really excited. We have a really good set of speakers. Thank you to the CAB and all the folks who did the hard work of organizing this conference. And of course, thank you to all the attendees who made the long trek out here from all over the world to come to this conference. I was asked to make a quick message out of respect for the speakers and the attendees listening. If you want to have conversations, just kind of take it outside or WhatsApp or chat where you won't interfere with the talks. So when I was invited to kind of give the opening notes, I thought a little bit about what I wanted to talk about, what was top of mind for me and what I thought might be interesting to folks. And one of the things I've noticed as I'm doing my very serious security, technical, academic discussions on Twitter is that there's a overarching sense of pessimism and sadness around security. We're not effective. Things are worse than ever. So if you kind of just bounce around on Twitter or you bounce around in these various esteemed security journals, you'll see things like, your smart fridge is about to kill you. There are 0 days in IoT devices, your heart's gonna explode. Your iPhone has an unpatchable flaw. Never mind that someone has to have physical access to your phone, plug it in, and if you tried the exploit, it doesn't work that well, that reliably, right? So we are, as security folks, we are naturally cynical. It's what makes us good at our job, right? We're skeptical. When you go to do an application assessment, you assume it's a flaming pile of junk from a security perspective, right? When someone comes into your office as a security engineer with a mitigation idea, you always know how to poke holes in it. It's what makes us good. It also makes it, in my mind, sometimes hard to figure out, are we making any progress? And let me tell you, I've been around a long time. When I started at Microsoft over a decade ago, I had no gray hair. They're all over the place now. I've been at the center of just about every poop storm you can imagine, from Stuxnet to WannaCry to GDPR. I've been through it all. And I am remarkably optimistic about where we've come. And part of that is I've just seen where we've come from, right? I have that old school mentality. I used to walk 20 feet to school. I remember when we had Stack Overflows left and right in Windows code. And so I'm able to kind of see the progress. And when I talk to my friends who are experienced, they also see the progress. Yes, we think we've improved. So the big question in my mind is, why don't I feel that when I talk to my colleagues or when we interact as a community? And so one of the things that gave me some insight here is about 2 years ago, I read a very interesting book by a Swedish gentleman who's both a statistician and a physician. So he has lots of experience in the developing world and a healthy understanding of statistical analysis and valid methods for that. And this book basically describes that there's an overarching pessimism in the world that's in some cases synthetic, because if you step back and look at the world objectively, it's actually much better than it's ever been. So as an example, Hans provides is, there's about 7 billion people on this planet who have access to clean water, food, and education. And of course, there's 1 billion who don't, and that is a very serious cause we need to focus on. But that's actually massive progress from where we've ever been in the history of humankind. And Hans gives a theory about why this is. He says, if you're sitting in the first world, you're sitting in a plush condo driving a Tesla around, it seems very subjectively difficult to imagine that things have gotten better for folks in, say, other parts of the world. And I see very similar viewpoints in security. So a couple of the instincts that Hans provides as potentially clouding the viewpoints are things like the fear instinct. So there's a natural predilection to pay more attention to scary things, and so you amplify it. And I'll give you an example of what that looks like in the security world. I have a lot of CISOs who call me as the head of security for Windows, and our conversations look something like this. FaceTime answer. Dave, oh my God, I just saw some crazy vulnerability that's been released on Twitter. It's got 3 flame emojis. It's called the Ghost Ninja. Do you know how scary a Ghost Ninja is? And I'll talk back to them and say, you know, there's actually like 3 configuration settings you can sit here, and there's already a patch for it, so things are fine. Are you sure? Because my board is breathing down my neck. I want to be able to stream Netflix tonight, so if the internet's not down, it's not going to work. And I say, no, everything is fine. So that is a natural sort of fear instinct reaction that pervades much of the discussion and discourse around computer security. Further examples are this tendency for negativity. Again, I already talked about what makes good security folks is a healthy amount of skepticism and cynicism. But of course, when this gets too far, it's very hard to see progress, and it's hard to keep pushing and keep working every day with the right amount of energy if you don't believe you can be successful. There's a size instinct, which is when you see a big number that measures even a tiny fraction of the problem, that tends to stick in your head, and it sort of creates a psychological scar where it's hard to move on past that negativity. And of course, there's the single perspective instinct. This is the really simplistic viewpoint on very complex problems. In the developing world, it might say, hey, we would solve all problems with hunger with education. That's very unlikely. There's lots of other variables there. In the security world, it would be like, if people just cared about security, we would fix everything. If the vendors just cared about security, things would be fixed. They might forget that there's things like reliability, performance, and, oh yeah, do you actually like using the product? All of these things factor in. So when we start to overlay this on security, I wanted to call out a few places where I see these types of tendencies clouding our view in the collective improvements that a lot of folks in this room and rooms similar across the world have actually driven for the rest of the globe. So the first is this generalization instinct. So the tendency to group things that are not actually together. An example for me is we actually see vulnerabilities trending up. So folks like yourselves in this room are doing a great job of finding and reporting vulnerabilities, and they're getting fixed faster than ever. And if you just looked at the number, you would say, man, things are terrible. There are so many vulns more than ever before. But in actuality, the number of times people are exploiting these vulnerabilities, and this is memory corruption data specific to Microsoft, but I think a good statistical set, the number of times that's actually being turned into an exploit is dramatically dropped, and it's lower than it's ever been. So this is a great example where we are just generalizing a place where we're not actually crediting the amazing work that our folks are doing in this room and around the world. Number 2 is this fear instinct. Again, every week there's a flame emoji on a tweet about a vuln. There's a fancy marketing package that sounds scarier than hell. And a good example of this is Spectre and Meltdown. A pretty terrifying vulnerability if you just looked at the headlines. Architectural flaw in every major CPU used for the last 20 years. I'm kind of shaking, and I understand how it works. What we missed was there was a tremendous capacity for all of the technology companies involved across software, vendors, OSs, applications. I mean, bitter rivals in the room, on the phone for hours every day, working together to fix something. That is tremendous progress, something that wouldn't have been possible even 10 or 15 years ago. And let's put this in perspective. One of the things I put out about a year ago is we did tremendous work here. They're still unpatched machines. Have we ever even seen them exploited? And to this point, no matter the headlines that have been driven, I actually haven't seen anyone who can point to Spectre or Meltdown or similar speculative execution vulnerabilities actually being used in the wild. So that fear instinct hit hard there, and it clouded our ability to see the progress that we've made as a community. And then the final bit is what we call the gap instinct, or what Hans calls the gap instinct, which is the tendency for you to be standoffish to a group that you see as opposing you. A great example of this is what Dino, Charlie, and other folks did tremendous work to drive the industry to saying, we're not going to give any more free bugs, and we want recognition and we want participation in the security process. 10 years on, HackerOne reports $42 million given out in just 2018 alone for their programs. That is tremendous progress, folks. We are so much better than we've ever been before. All of you have a mobile device in your pocket today, or a PC, or a Mac, or an iPad that is tremendously more secure than a device 10 years ago. So what I want to call out today as we look at some of the fantastic research, detection, and other methodologies that you're going to see today is focus on the progress we've made and how much potential there is to do more. So in other words, and I loved Bill Gates' quote on the book that I read, on Hans's book, is, in other words, the world can be both bad and better at the same time. Thank you so much.